So back to what I was saying. Could be us.
Hello, Beyond the Books family, because you guys have become family to us for the very fact that you're watching us right now. It shows good to you are supporting us. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for us to be producing content and get it. So we really appreciate the efforts in taking my data and all of that. And just a reminder to remember to subscribe, comment, and share our videos. And today you have a beautiful lady and the founder of Ligcabholakhe. Some of you will know her, some of you don't. But after this CEO, Mbali Dlamini. Mbali, how are you?
I am very well, very honored, very excited.
And we have to have you. Please briefly introduce yourself. What program are you doing here in Mbali Dlamini before we get into you being the founder of Ligcabholakhe and all of that?
Right. Mbali Dlamini is a firstborn daughter and granddaughter. I have 4 siblings. I am currently doing Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences here at University. I'm majoring in political science and public administration. So in another life, I was a politician. I hope I still can become one. I don't.
Which life?
Another. So I am a lover of life. I love love. Also, I love food. I love to dance. I love to laugh. I love a good side quest, which is why we are here. And yeah, I think that is it for now.
So you have Ligcabholakhe. Tell us more about it. This is a beautiful initiative, by the way. In as much as we will focus on Mbali as a person doing a lot beyond the books, Sibuga, the topic of menstrual health, which is the main reasoning here, because this is a topic people don't like talking about, and we're just gonna find out while males are also involved. And this is what makes your work stand out, because you also involve men into the topic. And you're probably wondering, if you're a guy right now, what's imagining in that?
Of course.
Menstrual health. Me.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the initiative.
Right.
There's delve more into menstrual health.
Okay, so Ligcabholakhe is my baby. It is a baby that I have been pregnant with for the past 2 years. My friends call me a baby mama now because I've given birth. So Ligcabholakhe is a menstrual health organization. It is an organization in its own right, and we recently launched on the 27th of March through an initiative under Ligcabholakhe called the Period Forum, which is a series of public dialogues, because we're trying to understand why menstrual health is talked about as though it is contraband in social spaces. Why is the stigma surrounding it? What are the cultural barriers that hinder access to this, right? What are the alternative solutions that we can provide? Because period poverty is a real thing. It is a human rights crisis that is happening in the country, and not just in the country, but in the globe, right? So we saw this gap to say there's a lot of people that are missing school, that are missing opportunities, that are missing out on a good quality of life, essentially, because of the fact that we're not talking about menstruation. Nobody thinks about menstruation as something to be talked about, right? It's more of a private matter, right? And even with what you were mentioning, that the guys are probably thinking, and that's the problem, right? Because really, whether we like it or not, a majority of the men are the ones that are in power, no? So if we are to change the policies, if we're going to have sustainable change, we need everybody to rally behind this initiative, right? Because if in any regard, in their different capacity, in their different spheres. So I think another important aspect of Ligcabholakhe is to look at menstrual health from like just a multifaceted perspective, right? From a social perspective, from a health perspective, from a scientific perspective, from a policy perspective, to say what have we been doing and what could we do differently so that we curb period poverty as a problem. Yeah.
And how would you define menstrual health?
Right. So menstrual health is access, and not just access to the pads, right? Because we often think of that, if you have your menstrual health thing, we have the pads and it's just fine, right? But menstrual health is access to information, about your period, about your body, what is happening to your body during that time. It is access to facilities to help you manage your period, right? That is toilets, that is because you want to be in a safe environment, right? Would you believe me if I told that there's certain schools that don't have toilets? So when you want to change your pad, they'll tell you, you kwaktela somewhere. And, and right. So that means now you do not have menstrual health, proper menstrual health management mechanisms, right? It is access to safe, information, to safe spaces as well, to be able to talk about, oh my God, I've been struggling with an irregular period for this amount of time. To be able to have a safe space to say, actually, how do I put a tampon in without it being very, uncomfortable for people? So menstrual health in its entirety, it's just having holistic mechanisms to adequately manage your period in a way that is dignified, in a way that is safe, and in a way that is accessible to you. Yeah.
So I don't know if you better be comfortable with this, but the last time you and I had a conversation, you did take me through how you went through that experience yourself.
Right.
Before Uzi, okay, you know what, I'm gonna start Ligcabholakhe. So I just need to share that experience to say, Uze upike like tell me, we tell this initiative
Right.
Ligcabholakhe, like take us through that.
Okay. So where do we even start? It's such a long story, but I get you. I need to cinch it off. But growing up, I didn't have a sustainable access to pads, right? It was always just a thing of maybe you'll get the one pad, the one pack rather. You get the one pack. I've always had a heavy cycle. So you get the one pack, it runs out, and then, the situation at home wasn't very conducive to be able to say, so now, you just that fear also, and then now having to figure out, now, now you're thinking of so many unhealthy alternatives. Now you're thinking of tissue, let's just step on. I remember one time I even stole a diaper because there was a baby in the house. I stole a diaper because I was just like, actually, this might work. It was a horrible idea. Please don't do that. Yeah. It was a horrible idea, But, as going through over the years and just struggling with very heavy menstruals, struggling with the excess, and just every time, and hating my body, because for every single time you bleed, you feel like, oh my goodness, and you hate everything that has to do with that very natural biological process, right? It's never comfortable, right? And then eventually, I end up, as you grow, and then I was having so many health complications as well with regards to my periods. I did say that, just last year, it got so bad. I was hospitalized, needed a blood transfusion. It was just a big mess. And even just going to the hospital because I remember I went the first time I went to the hospital because of my periods. I was 13, and I couldn't walk or anything like that. So I walked into the hospital and I said, "Oh my God, I can't walk." I was with my mom at the time, and the nurse just said, "That's a pregnancy test. Show me pregnancy." I'm like, I'm lying for me, and she's like, "No, can Shonja." That's what this is. So I remember I walked to the bathroom, I was shaking because at the time also I didn't really understand the science behind pregnancy tests. So in my very small mind, I thought, what is a pregnancy test? You are pregnant. And so I took that test, and I remember walking back and I was shaking because I'm just like, oh my goodness. So I gave it to the nurse. What's happening? It was negative. It's negative, right? And then, that's only after then the test came back, then they were able to help me. And then my mom asked to say, how, Manjanin, why do you need to take a test? And they're like, oh, now you had very bad cramps. You're having nausea and all these other hormonal things. They automatically first assume that you might have had an abortion. Especially. Oh. So now figure in your first point of contact, already the stigma to say, when I saw bleedile, when I bleed out, you must have done something, And I remember the nurse saying to me, "Manje wena nje uyableed away like phela 7 days nje uhlale wena uve ngathi konke kuhamba kahle. Manje uyajabula." Right? And I was 13 at the time. I was so terrified, and I've done something wrong, And in the years after that, I would go whenever even my period would get so bad. So no, I just started bleeding yesterday. oh, it's not, the pain is quite bad, but because I didn't want the stigma, I didn't want to have to go through the trouble of sanyalala.
This is bad because the stigma should see even in this
Of course.
formal places like hospitals where you're supposed to get the
Exactly.
and be free to express yourself with that
Right, and then get moving to school and then starting, being a peer counselor, and we'd have so many people that walk into the office but my pads, some people, phones and not only good and mamush. Actually what's on goodness, I'm even washing my disposable ones at this point, right? Someone will tell you I have to decide, am I buying a pack of pads or am I buying food? Am I buying a pack of pads or am I buying soap? Or am I buying roll on? That is such an inhumane decision for anyone to have to make. And then, I've told you, I love a good side quest. So I've done a lot of community outreaches and stuff. Then you talk to students and they tell you, oh, minang sabendisa solisi, oh, minang sabendisa tape, sabendisa tissue, sabendisa exercise book, mungha sugar exercise book, try and wrap it up with some plastic because they really cannot afford, right? So then I think that's when that pushed me down the hole to say, surely this should be better than what you're doing. Like, what else can we do? Then I went down the rabbit hole of just research. Now I'm getting introduced to, reusable pads and other sustainable alternatives and things along those lines. And yeah, that was, I think the 2 years ago was when I decided, actually, I'm fed up. Something must give, and then that's when Ligcabholakhe slowly formed in my very healthy uterus.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so sad because this is a natural thing. You don't ask for it. So, and that my expensive, like, hurts don't come cheap.
Of course.
And yeah. You think there could be a sustainable way in me spend ba nema pets not gonna, because look, donator, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, right? So yes, good donator is not sustainable because really Nagojin, as it's Ligcabholakhe wants to donate I don't name names, brands. But like you said, I decided I want to donate this pack of pads, maybe 100. So I later lapha iwalu say, But Tata, one pack of pad, can I just say one pack of pad is not enough for the average woman. For the most part, it's not enough. Yeah, but for the average woman, lapo you 12 months a year. How many years how many pack of pads do you need in your lifetime? Right? So the one once in a blue moon, it's really not sustainable, really and truly. So in terms of sustainability, there are so many other healthier, I want to emphasize healthier alternatives, right, that are more sustainable. But of course, because we're Africans. We're very conservative bunch for the most part, right? So when you mention these sustainable options, people probably tilt their nose up on some. My sister, no. So you have your menstrual cups. You have your Ligcabholakhe specifically is advocating for reusable pads, reusable sanitary pads. Though the reusable pad, one, you can have it if you take proper care of it. You can use it for up to 3 years. Really. You can use it for up to 3 years, just the one. So now not 3 of them, right? Because you need to change and stuff like that, right? Such a sustainable alternative, right? And because we all know cotton is a girl's best friend. Just so you know. That's why they're always, even the healthcare professionals are always saying, cotton underwear is that girl, That's why there's so many, for a very long time, they were even advocating to say, can the material on the pads, the ones that we buy, be cotton? Because the plastics are just not cutting it, right? And if you feel like, oh my God, go healthy, our great-grandmothers didn't have disposable pads and they never had to worry about cervical cancer. They never had to worry about fertility issues. They never needed IVF. So that's why you have Bokoko that have 15 siblings. Their uteruses were healthy.
Guys, I've been wondering. I'm a petty import left gige okay. I've been wondering what is happening in the past. What were they using?
They were using, of course, these reusable methods, right? In some societies, actually, I know in countries like Ethiopia, the some villages where they still use reusable pads. They never changed, right? They've just been in the area. You have these reusable fully cotton, which means it's also fully organic because there's no any chemicals to preserve or whatever case may be, right? And that's what they were using. Even just think of diapers, right? Emanabgeli for a very long time, but nabgeli, the nabgeli, just the actual nabgeli, ubene speneti, fase kuche with impilo, right? And it was working, stress free, right? So you know, with I think if we're being honest, Nasibuga, just in terms of health in current society, a lot of the problems we're having just require us to go back to the basics, you know? And I feel like menstrual health is probably one of those things. Of course, not every aspect of it, because, you know, there's the cultural stigma, because God say ninja for a very long time, but now ba in your cycle, yes, I have to excuse kancane asifuni ukuthi usiphekele because asikwazi ukuphethe yini, you know. Of course those kind of things should be done away with, right? Ukuthi you can't be talking to your dad about these things or your brother. Those are the parts that we kind of need to let go. But I think with regards to the management of it, right, because there are even natural remedies for it, right? As I said a story earlier about the team. Especially when I was 13, they told me, oh, you just have the hormonal imbalances, so you just need to take contraceptives, you'll be fine. I took contraceptives from when I was 13. Now when I was about 19 or 20, right? And I read a study recently, and they're saying that contraceptives, like that hormonal pill, is categorized in the same category as tobacco, like with the effects that it has on your body, right? So you can imagine the years of damage that has been doing to my cycle and my body. And they didn't have hormonal ndondoni so many years ago, right? And it was only recently where my period stabilized when I started looking at more natural alternatives like cloves and hibiscus and things along those lines, right? So why I'm saying some things really do require us to go back to the basics. Let's look at what's
more healthier.
Very much healthier. Very much it regulates your body better, you know. So yeah.
So then, because I know if you're a guy watching this, you'll be like, solo mini, ani, is the male.
Where do I enter? Okay. So in terms of kuti uhlanganapi, can I please just say you're a man. You come from a woman, you came from a woman, who came from a woman, you have sisters, you will have a wife at some point if that's what you aspire to do. You'll have a daughter, right? And all of these people need to be able to feel safe with you, right? Not just in a sense of against the skibbing, you know, but holistically, right? A lot of the men, you find that akafuni phatha okay my pads usitoli.
What?
Akafuni nje, akafuni shem yabona. You have a girlfriend, yabona girlfriend yakho like just I'm on my period. Ngcono ungethi. Ohlale phasi you know noma so kuvakashele maybe say naku sekumphunyukele now so stay in my shits up so ukwate wena ukwate uvakahle nje kuthi so unyanyile wena you know. And imagine how then that reflects on the woman, right? Emotionally, physically, yabona. So yancipha naye sova emahloni, yabona, from something that is very, very, very natural, right? Yeah. Because minanje, I think I've even gone to a point where I think of the uterus and, you know, this whole reproductive cycle as fertile soil, right? If you're bleeding monthly, that means your uterus is fertile, you know. No, but awuzangisokuva umphathi akwata sonke ukuthi unemhlaba lovunzile, yabona, unemhlaba lokhona kutshala the plants, and it's very fertile and it's very healthy. Nobody ever complains about that, and nobody hates fertile ground, right? So why are you then contributing towards me feeling some type of way because I have fertile ground within my body? Especially because at some point again, you need that fertile ground. You know. You understand? So it's I think from a social perspective, it's just things like that. I should be able to feel safe. Because I've even had with the last period forum that we had, right? We had a panelist and she was saying that when she got a period, she was living with her uncle, right? And then she got a period at school. She cleaned herself up, one pair, two with my pets, right? And she went home and she couldn't tell malume to say, and she was telling me during that time, my period, and I couldn't. because not so far as step. The truth be told, periods are so uncomfortable that when they say just your pad, your very expensive pad that you bought in the shop, you still feel some type of way. That's why am I clean, right? So now imagine the anxiety that plagues you, just the degradation that you feel as a person, right? You just feel like nyamalala into the shadows, like just no, So she told me like she would go ahlale ehlathini, I would say no. Ahlale ehlathini nje because she's on her period. Namaphuma esikoleni na ujuna namabuya esikoleni yahamba ekhaya.
Good to most girls they would miss school.
Of course, they miss school because of that, right?
Pain itself, and if you are less privileged,
exactly. Sekufuna ukukabala, sekufuna uphishaneke ubone thubamba ini uhlanganisa nani, so look what that imagine how much time of education she missed out on. Whole time bekana imali ashaya naye nginang breadwinner amthanza futhi mali makhe itsibeka mnyana ngiyabona amthanza ngisho yakhe amnakeke
because we know so open about those things.
Exactly. But so now as a man sitting there, imagine now there's your sister ungiphile lana akakhona ngisho kwendani because wena awufuna na hele for ulet or you'll be a dad. You'll be a girl dad at some point. Sometimes mama sending because I fellow shamusabshungweni during her time. Now so busy na so menda uva because of something that she can't even negotiate with. It's just there, right? And then I think outside of like that social setting, from a policy perspective and a national perspective, like I said, the men hold the power. For the most part, as it stands,
Even in management.
They're the ones that actually hold, the decisions to actually say, let's make this in policy, because as it stands, you don't even have like a menstrual health policy in the country, right? Tabakona for domestic violence, there is for your HIV, there is for your mental health and whatever. But in terms of menstrual health, because and truth be told, in the rooms that matter, nobody's talking about menstruation for the most part.
Right. And I know what as you having this conversation will have people right there where you are frowning and be like, minding us, you get like just consideration. That is what we're trying to change. And I hope that you as a male, this is a topic that you have to be comfortable with because it's happening. Your sisters, they both research, so you shouldn't be ashamed to talk about that. And I like the very fact that topic Lena off camera. We had a meal amongst us.
In the real, yes.
Like our kuluma is so flexible. And I'm like, I wish all males were like that.
Right.
Instead of taking them as if, no, I cannot go out and go out. Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah.
That is why I want to find out, Betty, from your own observation in Jan and the reception type when you talk about these things so far with the people that you engage with, that try to teach, how did you take it?
Okay. So I'd like to point out that I haven't had a lot of engagements because, like I said, we just recently launched in a formal perspective. That is, I haven't had a lot of engagements, but I know for certain that the reason why it took me 2 years to launch Ligcabholakhe was because when I was trying to have the conversations with people to say, I have something with this, I have this idea, right? I want to talk to people about menstruation. That's all I want to do, right? And for the most part, people would answer, nobody's interested, please. Just talk to your friends about this thing. It's not right. Are you sure about this? And when I initially, I think initial responses to Ligcabholakhe, I'm like, I want to talk to people about periods. I want to talk about, reusable pads, It wasn't very well received, right? To say, nobody wants to talk about this here, okay? Like, just don't be that person. Literally, like I said, but I had this, you conceptualized it in everything 2 years ago. I think even my friends would tell you, for every chance I came, I was like, no, guys, eventually, my baby's coming, But I think then from launching, since the launch, oh my goodness, the responses have been so overwhelming, overwhelmingly positive, right? In terms of, I'm receiving so many invitations for speaking engagements, I'm receiving so many, even from different setups, right? From an educational institution, we've had conversation to say, could you do like a series of talks here, right? A church, has been saying, we have a bunch of, our youth girlies. Do you want to come through, right? A golf club, they say, do you want to come through? And there's so many, even in the DMs, people are saying, can I please ask? And when we had the forum, there were males there were females there as well, and I was so pleasantly surprised by the range of the age group, because I think the oldest person we had in the room was a 59-year-old.
Really?
Yes. And the youngest one was a 19-year-old male, right? There was even a 39-year-old male there, right? And it was very interactive, very engaging. It was supposed to be a 2-hour session, right? So from 12 to 2. We left that place at 4:30 p.m. And it was only because Besel Fumanga Pandle, But, to say that I think people have just lacked the space, lacked the room, So I think now that Ligcabholakhe is providing these spaces to say, ask Kulumen, because we even had questions like, how do I choose my pad size? And I think, Michelle, you'd probably think a woman knows how to choose her pad size.
No.
No.
I myself, when we first had this conversation, that I didn't know myself.
Of course.
I myself go through that, but I was like, oh, okay, yes, that is.
And you probably have been on your period for like close to 10 years now, but every day is scholar. I often say that, I think also with the beautiful thing about Ligcabholakhe is that we don't want to have the situation where you come to a forum and rather it's a very flexible room, for conversations. We have something
people asking questions.
Yes, we have something called the truth box, actually, where you come in, it stays right there in the far corner. So you get there, you write your own little note and you slot it in there in the box, right? To say maybe you don't want to, because certain questions really and truly, because we just arrived here, certain things you don't want to be asking in front of the people. Someone as if it's saying, does a tampon take away your virginity? Interesting question, but of course now in a room full of people, probably batoshega for the most part, So we had that one. So then we have a truth box segment where we open the truth box, we read out the questions, and the answers come from the floor. Not the panelists, not the so-called experts in the room, but the flow. So we're having this one big group discussion where someone is saying, I don't think that, I don't think so. And someone is saying, oh, actually, no, I've been there, done that. This is how it works. So I think for the most part, I was very anxious about Ligcabholakhe because the people were saying, try something else, please. There's more serious matters at hand. Talk about
then you stood your ground. You're like, I am doing this. This is what I want to talk about.
Yeah, it took a very long time, because I think even now, I have people that, bless your hearts if you're watching this, bless your heart. We appreciate the feedback, but you have some people saying, why don't you add family planning? Why don't you why don't you talk about HIV? Because I think that's what people want to talk about more, Why don't you talk about family planning and, make it more, so that it reaches a wider audience, And I'm guessing maybe from their head it's just a thing of, you can't talk about menstruation only. So like I'm saying, bless your heart, right? Bless it. But that's not the vision we have for the brand. That's not our niche, right? That's not, it took me a very long time, right? To be able to get to this place. Like it took me a very long time to be able to be comfortable, right, with it. Because I went to a fellowship, went to America for 2 months, and every time they would ask me, well, so what do you do? I'd want to tell people, I actually want to talk about menstruation, but I didn't have the guts to do it, because it was just like, nobody wants to hear about this, okay? So it took us a long time to get here. So like I said, bless your heart, but that's not our niche. We are going to be talking about menstruation and menstruation only for a very long time.
Because it's quite a complex topic. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I did mention, but you also want to get into you as a person. But before shares Kati, I think, let's get into it. So you became the CEO of Enactus at the age of 19.
Yes, I should be about 19 or 20. Somebody. Yeah.
So on what basis were you chosen to be the CEO? Such a big position. And how has it shaped you as a person in a leadership position as a woman?
Right. Yo, yeah, it was mangin like what happened. I scammed my way through. Firstly, I wasn't there when there was an election. So I joined in Access in March, of that year. Joined in Access in March, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? I'm just here to see, because I said I love a good side quest.
Say that.
I love the side quest, when they're saying, oh, there's something happening there. So I just went there to see. I was actually following my roommate because my roommate went up before me. She kept being like, oh, actually, he saw something. I was like, oh, actually, I think you're born. So I got there, not much. And I'm just learning the ins and outs of enactors. I'm learning about social entrepreneurship. I'm learning about all of these different leadership roles and things along those lines. And then in June, I remember we had a fundraising thingy happening, ne? And then I was on fundraising duty, so I was running errands. I come back and they're like, oh, we had an election for a vice CEO and you were nominated and you got in. I was like, so what does this mean? And they're like, oh no, you are the vice CEO now. So
Just like that.
I'm just like, nominated, money. What's happening? Like, I know the room. We voted. You won. I was just like, okay, cool. So let's do this, right? I remember that was a Thursday on that specific day, and then on Monday, the CEO at the time submitted a resignation letter. Yeah, and it was like effective immediately. So then we went back to the drawing board to say, so what happens now? Because I just arrived, and the faculty advisor, Inacta, said, oh, forward we go, my sister. He'll be fine. So that was it. I took up the CEO position from there.
And how
That's
is
it.
it used
Right.
that leadership position?
Oh, that leadership position almost killed me. But it stretched me, right? Because I didn't think I was up for the task. I didn't think I was deserving of the task. So which means I felt the need to overcompensate. I really wish I could go back and speak to my younger self now. I felt the need to overextend myself. I felt the need to I need to, I wasn't very good at delegating at the time, which means I took up so much more than I actually needed to take up, right? So I think maybe it shaped me in I think I learned that I actually, black child, it's possible, right? I can do anything I can set my mind on. Because sometimes I look back, I'm like, how did I hold all of that together at the same time? And I'm realizing, oh, I really am that girl. I really am capable in that regard.
You are the girl you think you
I'm
are.
the girl I think I am, okay? I think, and then it even showed me that, even the rooms that you think you don't necessarily qualify for, rooms that you don't even think you have space for, walk in the room like God sent you there. You'll be just fine, show up and show off and things like that, right? But I think even now, the biggest lesson that I had to learn was delegating. You don't have to do it all on your own, right? You do not have to do it all on your own. You can ask for help. You can work with other people. So I think it shaped me in that regard. Yeah.
Interesting. EFA. Because I know for sure she has culture. So I just want to know what's next for Ligcabholakhe and what is the next for Mbali Dlamini.
Okay. So what's next for Ligcabholakhe? We have the Period Forum episode 2 coming up. But we haven't confirmed dates or anything. So we haven't confirmed dates or anything, but we do know it's happening at the end of May, rather. Sorry, so it'll happen sometime in May, before the end of May. So just follow the pages, okay? We are very new in the pages. Also, I don't know how to use Facebook. Also, fun fact, I don't know how to use Facebook.
We normally have a game session where we get to know you at a more personal level because she's kind.
Yeah.
You like.
Oh my goodness, I don't know how to use Facebook, but I created the page. I navigated creating the page. I just don't know how to grow it. So please just follow the page, okay?
Yeah.
And Instagram, so that you look out for the updates. But yeah, we do have the Period Forum happening. We have also, I did say that we've got a few invitations for some talks with certain organizations and groups. So we'll be doing that as well. We're actively looking for funding. We're looking for sponsorships and partnerships and collaborations. So we're hoping that, it's the best announcer, now Ligcabholakhe in partnership with, You know, what's next for Mbali Maswati? Side quests. Side quests upon side quests, whether it is using my blue passport, wink wink, or maybe that's in now.
To keep them coming.
And no, I mean, come on, I'm ready. I'm ready to be Mrs. International. But a side quest, I don't really have proper names to say. Oh, I'm gonna take up this position and this position because really and truly, I am a jack of all trades and a master of all.
Okay. Well, your goodbyes and a message for someone looking up to you. It's Yakilo Sidona is doing amazing things, and Nami nginale idea and I would say I want to start this, but I don't have enough resources. Because I'm pretty sure we see now when you said Ligcabholakhe, you didn't have much. So what would be word of advice, anything that you'd say to a person like that?
Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? I think I saw that a while ago, and it has been my Bible, essentially, to say, if you want to make a difference, if there's something that you're not happy with, if there's something that you want to change, something must change, And I think I even read a book, I don't even remember what it was, and it was saying that, there's two versions of you that currently exist, say 6 months from now. And those two versions, one part of it, their life looks exactly the way it does now, right? And then the other version, the life looks completely different, right? And what determines which version of yourself you meet is the choices that you decide to make starting from today. So you need to make a decision, the way you act, the way you interact, the opportunities you look out for, that determines which version of yourself you are voting to meet on a daily basis. So just decide what's okay, and take actionable steps towards that, because really and truly, Black child, it's possible. Okay, if there's anything that my side quests have taught me, Black child, it's possible. I remember I used to, in primary, when for the social studies, and we learned about the United Nations, and so on all of those were always abstract concepts. Went through high school funza history, and I do politics now, right? And of course, so when you read of United Nations and this, you fall flat, very far-fetched and things like that. Can I just tell you, I was in the United Nations last year, because I was wearing heels and the heels were hurting me so much, and I was walking barefooted. Exactly. So I was walking barefooted in the United Nations. I cried. I went to the toilet and I cried and I said, Sana, what do you mean I'm in the United Nations? My favorite city growing up was Paris. I was like, oh my God, I'd love to go to Paris because I used to learn French at primary. I was in Paris last year. So, yeah, so a good, come on, pursue a good side quest. You have nothing to lose. So those are just pursue a side quest and nothing changes. If nothing changes, truly.
Thank you so.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for episode 5. We'll keep them coming. Actually, there's a lot when it comes to this university. I mean, mentorisha ban for like high school for debates, public speaking. There's a lot. If it's in our Kuluma when I cover up everything, won't finish. Yeah. So, guys, I'm Ligcabholakhe, your host, and
So back to what I was saying.